Leaving the military was probably the hardest decision I've made in my adult
Mm.
life because I loved it. I loved the people. But I started to realize that, again, my background was communications. And the military, unfortunately, is not great about seeing people outside of their what we call Air Force specialty code, which is like
Mm.
your career field. So the Air Force saw me only as a public affairs officer. And I no longer had someone advocating for me for positions that traditionally public affairs officers didn't get to do,
Yep.
command. And so I realized to stay in the Air Force meant I was going to stay in the track of public affairs. And that wasn't horrible, but I also didn't have the love and passion for it that
Mm.
I had when I was leading the organizations, leading the operational organizations. And candidly, I knew I didn't have that love and passion. And what I realized is it would be unfair to both the organization and the people that I would be leading to continue to stay and not be as passionate about
Mm.
what it is I was doing. And I thought, I love the Air Force so much. I can't do that to the Air Force. I can't show up and not be 100%
Right.
because as public affairs, we're leading more of a function than we are leading large groups of people because all of the people who do public affairs at an installation are under their own leadership chain,
Right.
right? You don't have any authority or responsibility for them. You're really kind of managing a career field and managing the corporate message. And my heart just wasn't in that anymore. And I thought, the Air Force won't ever let me do something that is outside of this career field at this point in my career because I'm too senior. They needed me to be in public affairs, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
that's kind of what they had been growing me to be. A bunch of us, they grow a group of people so that they can kind of select from that group.
Right.
And I realized, like, if my heart's not in it, I can't do that to the Air Force and I can't do that to the people.
Mm.
And I had discovered some work around values, and my top 2 values are authenticity and growth. I thought, I'm not growing the way I wanna grow if I stay in the Air Force, and I'm not authentically being me if my heart's not in this.
Mm.
And I was already kind of doing some of the work we both do in helping leaders and helping organizations navigate these hard realities of the emotional experience we experience as leaders. Like, sometimes I tell people, like, these aren't soft skills, these aren't
These
hard
are the
you
hard
know,
skills.
these are the hardest skills, like,
Yeah.
hardest,
Yeah.
because they require we do our own work first, and
Right.
none of us really wanna do that, right? And so I was already in that space and I loved it. It felt like I was going back to who I was in Iraq when I said, I will never again, if I have the ability, let another
Right.
leader step into this space without knowing it's hard and knowing the skills to navigate those difficulties. And so I thought, I think it's time for me to go. And it was hard.
Oh.
It was incredible. It's still hard.
Mm.
I still cry at the national, just this 4th of July. I was crying at the national anthem. Like I tear up all the
Yeah.
time. I am only who I am today because of the Air Force.
Right.
It was so amazing.
So you must be taking some incredible insight and confidence isn't the right word. I'm trying to think like passion into your work now. So, you're doing leadership work, you're speaking. What's the message that you are really trying to help leaders get? Like really get. I mean, you and I have both been in this leadership space forever. We can hear the same things
Mhm.
like be your best self and da la la la.
Yeah.
Like, what do you really want to get to the heart of with your work now?
Oh, God, there's so many. But I think if I had to sum it up into a brief kind of overall message, I'm not a soft person. I think because I talk about these things, people assume you're going to be soft. And it was funny when I was in command and my replacement got there, my replacement said to my secretary, because my replacement knew I was doing some of this work and I was talking about things like vulnerability and compassion and self-compassion. And when you hear those things, you think, oh, let me just give you a big hug, right? Like that's
Right.
what people envision, right? Like, let's hug and kumbaya. That's
Yeah.
what they think when they hear things like self-compassion and kindness
Yeah.
and empathy. And she said to my secretary, I'm not going to be touchy feely like Colonel Halfill. And my
Yeah.
secretary was like, you don't know her at all. Like, she is not touchy feely. I love structure. I love process. I love accountability. I I am all about let's get the job done. Like I'm
Right.
that person who writes an email and I write the email and then I forget that I got to go back and say, "Hi Carolyn, how are you today? How have you been?" Like I have to get the mission done first and then I
Right.
remember to deal with the people and the kindness.
Yep.
And so I think what I would want leaders to know is I see you. I see that we are dealing with some really hard things in our corporate environments, in our government environments, in our country. We are dealing with incredibly hard things, and we need leaders who can deal with those hard things. And this work isn't about being soft, this work is about being effective. And when
Mhm.
I learned these skills, I became a more effective leader. I didn't become a kinder, softer, gentler leader, maybe a little, because I could be pretty
Be
harsh.
kinder, maybe not nice, right? Like,
Yes,
there's a difference, right, between kind and nice.
yes, yes. I probably did become a little kinder
Yeah.
and maybe a little nicer, but I became so much more effective
Mm,
because I wasn't wasting time. When you know this work, you get to the root of what is going on.
right.
You get to the core of the problem, which meant I wasn't wasting time dealing with the ineffectiveness. I wasn't wasting time with the drama. I wasn't wasting time with the stuff that happens when we don't know how to get to the root.
Right.
I could get to the root. We could problem solve effectively. And I was creating a space where the best of people was showing up, which also made my teams more effective, right?
Yeah.
Because they weren't operating out of imposter syndrome. They weren't operating out of insecurity. They weren't operating out of projecting the fake it till you make it. They weren't operating
Right.
out of, approving mode. They were operating out of authenticity. And so this wasn't about being this wasn't about being liked or soft or anything. It really was 100% about being effective. And that's what I'm trying to get leaders to see that especially today, you want to be more effective. And to be more effective, these are the skills you need going forward. Like there's no going back.